We are held hostage no more. The Peyton Watson issue finds its resolution. He is not coming to Milwaukee. What it means for the Bucks, how they resolve the roster, and the cost of first-round picks on today's Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I'm Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. And Peyton Watson has found a new home. It is not in Milwaukee. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who, as this process dragged on, Camille, we heard the Bucks, the Cavs, and the Clippers. I think to a lesser extent the Cavs. I always very much viewed that with a side eye and thought like, okay, the Cavs are interested, but we'll see. So that's my surprise more than anything that they came through on this. I'm not surprised in this sense. We talked about the relationship between agency and teams and whether or not there was we did you a solid here, so we would like some leverage on the Bucks end. The Cavaliers are a very, 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 very clutch team, maybe the most in the league now. So in that sense, it makes a whole lot of sense. And the gamble is a good one for Cleveland. It's not all that much of a gamble with how the roster is currently constructed. I like it quite a bit for the Cavs. It's going to get interesting in, I think it's next year. I mean, we'll pull up the cap sheet, but I like it for this year for Cleveland, especially considering James Harden is on board with this, or assuming that, and is going to sign an extension any day now that's probably in the mid-20s, maybe high 20s. But then the 27-28, you got Donovan Mitchell's extension kicking in at $60.9 million. You're still paying Evan Mobley $53.8 million. The Peyton Watson deal starts or is in year 2 at $21.4 million. You're right back in the spot you just worked to get out of, and that's not even factoring in James Harden's contract. Or Jared Allen's contract, which I would assume this move makes Jared Allen. I would start to look at maybe, can I sell this house? Should I rent here? Because it's going to be very expensive, and Peyton Watson gives them some flexibility to be a 4 where you can play Evan Mobley at the 5.
Yeah, I like it a lot for Cleveland. I was not as high on Cleveland prior to this move in the East, like the picture of the East. And I was kind of
still not, but yeah.
I was like, this does help for me of like, okay, you finally got that wing player you've been searching for years to pair next to Donovan Mitchell and this crew here. I really like that fit. Personally, the contract with 4 years, $88 million, like that range to me felt fine. I'm like, that makes sense for me. I like it for Cleveland. I was disappointed that it wasn't for the Bucks. Like, I know that there has been some hand-wringing over what Cleveland had to give up in order to bring Peyton Watson there. And to your point about what it's going to do for their cap situation, I think Cleveland plays this out as like a tester year of like, hey, do all of these current pieces work? Because they were such an expensive team last year. They did make it to the Eastern, Conference Finals. And then everything just went downhill for them very, very quickly against the Knicks. So I could see the Cavs looking at this as like, we were very close to making the finals last year. We are making a move here that we think can help us get there this upcoming season. So like, I get it for the Cleveland sense. Once they traded Dennis Schroeder, it was like, okay, if Strus is also gone soon, they're definitely trying to make something happen. And they end up doing this multi-team trade that also gets Strus out of Cleveland. So I like it for them. For the Buck side of things, it's a miss, but not one of those missed opportunities where it changes everything for you. Like, it was one of those moves for me to get Peyton Watson. That's like, if it's the timeline, it makes sense amongst what the Bucks are trying to do with their rebuild. But now that they didn't actually pull off the move, I'm not like heartbroken in the sense of like, it changes everything in my opinion for the Bucks. Like, now you just continue to go forward. I will say that this move, I hope that the Bucks don't go and be like, hey, let's go get Benedict Mathurin instead, or try to have another move in its place. Like, Peyton Watson was the one for me in this offseason of like the restricted free agents. Now that he's kind of out of the way, I'm cool with just taking this roster as it is. Whatever they need to do to get it to 15 players, cool. But outside of that, like I'm all right on the free agent hunting, restricted free agent hunting.
I wouldn't slam the door on Benedict Mathurin, but I'm like the price has to be the right price there. Like even Jonathan Kuminga, I mean, when you look at how the market is really dried up for him, like, okay, if you want to come around on like this dollar figure, we're interested. But other than that, no, we're not beating down your door here. So I think that's how I play the rest of the offseason here for the Bucks. And that deal that that Peyton Watson got, it would have kept the Bucks under the first apron, just narrowly. I think you'd have about a million plus to spare there. You would be in the tax, but they would also be at 18 guys, so you'd still have to shed some players off of that roster. And I mean, I would assume one of them would have been going elsewhere in this deal if the Bucks were included in it. But you could have easily gotten under the tax, I would assume. Well, I shouldn't say easily, because as we've seen, when teams know you have to do this, the asking price goes up on things. So it would have legally worked under the construct here to keep the Bucks under that first apron. They would have had some work to do to trim the roster and to get under the luxury tax. What Denver ultimately got back is what I want to take a look at here. And then, is Denver still a trade partner for the Bucks with what they're looking to do this upcoming season here? I think those are the most interesting takeaways that we have from this Peyton Watson saga finally coming to a conclusion. So we'll get into those things coming up next.
The problem of finding clothes that you can live in all day, be comfortable, and do whatever you need to do, whether it's just chilling, going to meetings, playing golf, being on the move, that problem has been solved by Cozy Earth. The everyday polo is the answer. It's lightweight, built to move with you, just easy to wear everywhere. I've got it on right now, and it's fabulous. Plus, the Cozy Earth Essential Socks, they're exactly what the name suggests. Soft, supportive, comfortable enough that you stop thinking about them halfway through the day. Plus, Cozy Earth backs everything with a 10-year warranty and hassle-free returns. So if something isn't quite right, you're covered. That makes trying them for yourself an easy decision. I've got the Cozy Earth Everyday Polo in blue and in black. Check them out at CozyEarth.com. Use the code LOCKEDON for 20% off. That's right, Locked On for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, please mention you heard about it right here, CozyEarth.com.
Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. You just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on the matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep, and now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Sometimes it's as simple as those hitters that go on hot streaks. It could be the ballpark conditions or even a pitching matchup and a pitcher that's been prone to serving up the long balls. A lot to go into when selecting who it is for your daily dingers pick. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play FanDuel, and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. So, I mean, I'm at the risk of sounding like I'm beating a dead horse here. I was first to market to say it's over for Denver, and they are very, very much giving us the vibes of the Bucks a couple of years ago, and this does nothing to change any of that. Like, if anything, this is doubling down. I've seen, and I took in some of the our friend Matt Moore and the group at Locked On Nuggets. I took in their reactions, some of the DNVR stuff, and some others too. And it keeps coming up of like, what it feels like we're going to make a circling the drain move like we're Milwaukee or something, like, fellas. And this, to be fair, this take wasn't from Matt, but fellas, you are already there.
Yeah.
Like, you guys may not realize it. You're already looking at houses in a neighborhood in Milwaukee. You're making the move, so just embrace it. That's where Denver is. I don't get it. You know, like, the second apron, owners love this because there are some financial, like, what it does in freezing your picks, and you can only do this and this. Like, yeah, it's prohibitive and it's problematic. But if you do a good job, like, you know who it's not really an issue for? The Oklahoma City Thunder. If San Antonio gets there, like, you do a good job building up those assets, making sure you're paying the right guys and analyzing. And look, Denver, I won't totally blame because they were kind of caught in the middle, similar to the Bucks of, we built our team this way. Things change so drastically that you can no longer do this. But you can't pay Aaron Gordon $30 million anymore. Right. You can't have Jamal Murray on a deal nearly the same as Nikola Jokic. Like, you can have one supermax guy. You got to have rookies and rookie scale deals that are giving you valuable minutes. You can have a couple of those $20 million deals. The Christian Brown deal too. Like, there was no rush. That is one area where I will blame Denver. No rush to get into that last year when they did. That sunk you because now you have Peyton Watson, who ultimately doesn't get as much as Christian Brown, but looks at that. That's my barometer. That's the ballpark we need to be in. And Denver's telling you, we can't do that because of this, and this. I still, if I was Denver, would have moved heaven and earth to just say, okay, we'll pay Peyton Watson. We'll figure it out. Like, we don't want to do this, but we'll offload Cam Johnson. We'll look into some other things. The challenge, they didn't have assets, and now they do, to attach to like a Zeke Nnaji to free up some money there. But Peyton Watson is not the guy I'm moving on from, especially when Nikola Jokic has not signed his extension and is. I don't care how many assurances he's given you. Like, oh, yeah, I'll sign it next year when I can get more money. This is the offseason you want to put in front of him leading into that?
Yeah, I don't think that the Denver Nuggets got better this offseason. And in a Western Conference that was already very top heavy with the Thunder and with the Spurs, like, you had to figure out a way to kind of come back reloaded and figure out a way to break through again. You have Minnesota in that conference that, you know, made a big move, brought LaMelo over. They do have a hole at the power forward, but that's another discussion. You have the Lakers, completely different roster, it feels like, for them coming into the year. So for Denver, and the point that you were making about, it feels like the Bucks in the sense of you have to, something happens and then you have to try to react to that. But the rest of your roster isn't necessarily the most well-equipped to handle the change that you just made. And for Denver, I feel like you really did miss Peyton Watson in the playoffs, because once he had the hamstring injury and he was kind of out, you saw how much they really needed that athleticism, especially at the wing position for that team. And now that is gone. So you were already looking at what the playoffs looked like with him out of your rotation. The idea was like, hey, if we had him healthy, it could have been a little bit different. You want Aaron Gordon to be healthy, of course, but Peyton Watson was a missing piece there. And now you sent that piece elsewhere. And what you brought back in were draft assets, which can be useful for them in trying to figure out how they continue to build a team. Maybe they do something at the trade deadline or what have you. But in this moment, they are just not set up the best for success, which actually
they're significantly worse. Yeah.
Yeah. They did not get better this offseason, which does bring me to a name that you brought up with Zeke Nnaji. Yeah. Because he was one of those names that was being floated out there as somebody who the Nuggets wanted to get off of, trying to get off of that contract going forward. Do you think that, given how this offseason has went for them now, that they still might be looking to get off of Nnaji's contract? And if so, would you be interested in the Bucks being that team and being like, hey, you know, it didn't work out before when we were having a conversation about Peyton Watson. You sent him to Cleveland. Cool. But hey, if you're trying to get off this contract, what can we get in return for doing that with you?
Yeah, I mean, they are still in the second apron. And I think they're about $6 million in there. So they offload Zeke Nnaji. They're under the second apron. That would also drop them down to 12 players. So they'd still need to add 2 more. And I would assume you're adding 2 of the minimums. But, I mean, we've heard DeMar DeRozan linked to them too. I mean, now that they have this pick, an unprotected 2031 first from Cleveland, which I think is pretty valuable.
I think so too.
Given, I don't know what to make of the whole draft situation, because the sense was teams are going to be hesitant to part with picks after, 2029, when it's going to change again, we assume. And that's just not been what we've seen of late. Like, you're seeing all these 2030 picks go out the door now. I would bet on that 2031 unprotected pick, especially if we keep a similar structure in the lottery, being a pretty good one from Cleveland when you just examine everything that we went through. Like, by 2030, Peyton Watson's deal doesn't run through 2031. He's got a player option in the 29-30 season. Donovan Mitchell will be in the final year. His contract will have just expired with a player option, although. So maybe he sticks around for additional years, but he's going to be in his mid-30s by that point. James Harden, I would assume, will be out of the league by then. Evan Mobley's deal will have expired the previous season, and he'll be approaching 30 years old. So it's something I would bet on, if I was Denver. But I get the sense they're going to have to use that pick to offload some other contracts here. And to me, this is where I get aggressive now if I'm the Bucks. And I look at it and I say, okay, Denver is at about 215 million, 215.6 in salary with 13 players under contract. The tax is 200 million, and the first apron level is 209 million. The second apron, so they're not technically in there. They will be with the minimums that they're going to have to give out here. So, yeah. So we'll take Zeke Nnaji off your hands. Julian Strother's another guy that we'll take that, because that's more than what a minimum contract would be. We'll take those 2 things. And if you want to sign DeMar DeRozan, fine. We'll give you one of our guys too that's making $5 million this year. And I don't even want to put a name out there, Camille, because I know the comments will come for us, but there's a couple of guys that are making 5, low 5s. Pick one. 2031 first is coming in that, and one of the seconds is coming in it. Like, that's what we'll do. We're giving you a guy that can help you now. We're taking those bad contracts from players you don't want to play. It'll improve your depth a little bit. We need draft picks.
Yeah, and the question then becomes, do you value that draft pick more than one of the guys that's on the roster making, the less than $5 million, so to speak? So the guys that would include there, of course, well,
I'm just going to say this. I would assume they would value a 2031 unprotected pick more than they do. And again, don't come for me, but more than they would value Kevin Porter Jr., based off nothing other than, if they truly did value him, it would have not been, like, we wouldn't be in a scenario where he picked up his player option. You would have worked out a decline this, and we've got this extension ready for you. The fact that we allowed it to get to this, I think, should be telling.
I think, and most times I would agree with that, but I do think that last year was, because of the injuries for Kevin Porter Jr., I initially kept saying I think he opts in because he did have an injury-riddled season last year. I thought that he would opt in to have more of like a prove-it year, let me kind of rehab the value a little bit going forward, and then after that, we have the conversations. So personally, I don't look into KPJ opting in as like it could have been like you didn't have any other better options this summer, which is quite possible given, again, the injuries. But I think it could be possible the Bucks do have interest in him going forward.
Well, I think they have interest for the right price, but like
that part, yeah.
I think that also means I value assets more. So, like, okay, if you're willing to stick around the same deal, we can explore that. But it didn't sound like there was any conversations of extension.
Yep. And maybe, again, first year with a new coach, let's kind of see how this all goes. If things work out, let's have the conversations to bring you back. But outside of KPJ, the only other guys that are making, around 5 mil, Usman just signed, but that's 5.7. Nate Mint, 5.5. I don't see them getting off of the rookie they just drafted. KPJ is 5.3. Khalil Ware is 4.6 million. I don't quite see that. You got Ryan Rollins at 4 million. Casper Jakuchonis at 3.8 million. Jericho Sims at 2.8. And then you got Bogaloo at 1.3. But again,
I think Jaime
rookies,
would be the big one for Denver, especially.
Yeah, he's at 5.9.
Yeah, and I think that would work for them. But like for the position that they need to replace now, that would make the most sense. But if I'm the Bucks and any team, frankly, that's dealing with the Nuggets now, like, okay, you got something. So we need that 2031 first if we're going to do this. We kicked around some scenarios in our private chat last night, and Frank mentioned too, like, well, I think they would probably want Kasper Jakuchonis. I'm like, I don't want to make it sound like we're just blinded by Kasper Jakuchonis in the half year that he had with Miami. Like, oh, he's untouchable. I'm not saying that, but I need something sooner than a 2031 first if I'm going to part with Kasper Jakuchonis, because like the whole thought was we can't give you X amount of picks, but in theory we can give you first round picks because this guy was a first rounder last year. And if that's the case, like, fine, we'll keep him and develop him. If you're telling me I can give you something, but it's not for another 5 years, like, no, it's got to be sooner than that.
Yeah, and I think for the Bucks position, and hearing how they talked about the trade for Giannis or with Giannis to Miami and the players they brought back, Cass seemed like a player they were really, really excited to get into the building. So I'd be surprised if the Bucks were easily coming off of Cass this upcoming this offseason of like, we just got him in the building. He was a piece we were really intrigued by. So that would surprise me. So I would think that the asking price, to your point, if they were to move off of Cass, would have to be a more immediate draft pick, a draft asset for the team. But we'll have to see. Like, as you mentioned, like, we no longer have to have the conversations about Peyton Watson and this team. At this point now, the Bucks are still being linked to Benedict Mathurin, as we mentioned a little bit, somewhat to Kuminga.
So I think that should be pretty telling too, that the latest update we got from Mark Stein earlier in the week, there was no mention of Peyton Watson. It was just the Bucks remain interested in Benedict Mathurin. So this was clearly in motion, and I think a lot of people knew this. Sounds like some out of Denver start, like if you listen to the DNVR show too, Adam Maras kind of was the one in the group that was always kind of projecting, I think he's going to be traded, and was kind of amping that in recent days too. So I'm sure this has been out there. The last thing before we wrap this up here. So now seeing the cost, the dollar figure that he got, and what the Cavs had to give up to get him. Would you make the same deal if you were the Bucks? So you're going to have to offload some other guys. And again, the challenges that come there where teams know Milwaukee's got to get rid of 3 guys, and Milwaukee's got to get under the tax. So we can really dig in our heels here. Let's remove that and just look at it in a vacuum here. Would you make a deal where you're paying him $20.4 million this year and you're giving up, you got a 2031 first from Miami, so you got 2 picks there. Would you give up one of those and pay him that dollar figure? Personally,
I would, because Peyton Watson was one of those players that I do believe in a bigger role can take another jump in his game. It's not like a 1-to-1, but if I believe in that player, which the GM would have to make that, draft capital available, you make the move. Personally, I would have, because I do think that Peyton Watson is like that.
I waffle on it. I mean, as of this moment, I think I would do it, but you need to do some more work to continue to add some assets. But I think right now I would say, if that was the cost, one of the 2 2031 firsts that we have, and then we're paying him this amount of money, I'm fine with it. I would add this to the group and just add another piece that we think could be like what would you say, star level player. Like, he's not superstar all NBA. I don't see that from him. Star even might be a stretch, like just a really good starter.
Yeah. And I think it fits with the core that the Bucks we're looking to
the
establish.
Age and everything else, and what the play style. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I'm curious the thoughts of everyone else. We know what the cost was now. Did the Bucks miss out here? Would you have done that same deal? The picks in this case with a second rounder, but let's remove that. But a 2031 first and paying Peyton Watson that much money. It's a missed opportunity for the Bucks. Leave your thoughts in the comments. We got another show tomorrow. And in the interest of transparency, this is your second show of the day today. We already recorded tomorrow's show, and I believe we made a mention to Peyton Watson too. So you're listening tomorrow and you hear that. That's the reason why. But everything else up to date for that episode, which we recorded just a few hours ago, just before this news broke, actually. So look for that one coming your way tomorrow morning. That'll do it for today. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.